Hello, folks. Welcome to NFL Week 4 predictions. Last week, I went a perfection, 13-3. Who thought of that? My overall record is 35-13, which, by the way, if you guys think my predictions are crazy enough, tell that to the record that I just said. 35-13 overall. And last week, I went 13-3. Yeah, show me respect. Let's get to it. The Seattle Seahawks take on the Arizona Cardinals at 8:15 p.m. Eastern on Prime Video. Seattle is a 1.5 favorites. Seattle are coming off a dominant win against the New Orleans Saints at home, while they're taking on a Cardinals team that lost James Cook, of course, on a season-ending ankle injury, but also coming off a heartbreaking loss on the road in San Francisco. Arizona will debut their new NFL rivalries jerseys, of course, which was branded by Nike. So we'll get to see that for the first time this year for the Cardinals. Here, I'm going to take the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks defense will slow down the running game, and that offense looks very good. I think Jackson Smith and Jigba, Cooper Kupp will get 100 receiving yards. If I had to put a score, I think it's going to be a 31-20 football game. Seahawks win. Minnesota Vikings taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers at 9:30 a.m. Yes, our first international game. 9:30 a.m. Eastern on NFL Network. Minnesota's a 2.5-point favorites, and this is played in Dublin, Ireland for the very first time. Let's talk about it. Minnesota, coming off a dominant win, of course, it was a defensive performance from Isaiah Rodgers against a backup quarterback in Jake Browning and the Bengals. No worries. They're going to take on the Steelers, who are coming off a game that they could have maybe won at 28-14, but turns out they won 21-14. 2.5 favorites in Minnesota favorite? Not happening. Pittsburgh wins it. I think their defense is too good overall. Steelers win 23-20. This is my score for that one. Washington Commanders take on the Atlanta Falcons at 1 p.m. Eastern on CBS. Washington is a 1.5 favorites. Commanders are coming off a dominant win against the Raiders. Of course, no Jane Daniels. Marcus Mariota did the job. Now, latest is we have not heard any latest news about Jane Daniels to see if he'll return. If he does, big boost, because they're going to take on a Falcons team that give up 30 points to the Panthers. And if you're a Falcons fan, yeah, you never predicted that to happen. Here is a must-win game for Atlanta, but I'm going to take the Commanders. I think this is a big-time win for the Commanders. Washington wins it by 4. Los Angeles Chargers take on the New York Giants at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern on CBS. Chargers are 6.5-point favorites. The Chargers are undefeated and are coming off a big-time win at home against the Broncos. They travel to the East Coast of New York to take on the Giants, who announced their new starting quarterback, and it is Jackson Dart. Yup, Jackson Dart is finally getting his starting job. After a tough loss to the Chiefs and all the fans sudden, we won Jackson Dart. I'll get to that prediction really quickly, but quick thought about that. I think it's too early for Jackson Dart because by the time we get to week, let's say 6, 7, I think Jackson Dart comes in as the starter. But making a decision this early, I don't know what Brian Daboll is doing for that one. Here, I'm going to go with the Chargers. Well coached, good quarterback, good defense. Chargers win it by 10 points. Tennessee Titans take on the Houston Texans at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern on CBS. Houston is a 7.5-point favorites. What? Couldn't this be a 5.5-point favorites? Because both teams are 0-3. Tennessee just got smashed by the Colts. The Texans, they just felt like their season's over. And their O-line did not go very well. They're also 0-3. Both of these teams need a win, of course. I'm going to take the Texans. This is a must-win game for them, and it's played in H-Town in Houston. So there's a must-win game for the Texans. Give me the Texans by 5 in this one. Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 1 p.m. Eastern on Fox. Philly is a 3.5-point favorites. Tampa Bay coming off a great win against the Jets, although that block kick, I think that's a tough one, but they still managed to win the game. They're going to take on the Eagles, who Jordan Davis just saved the Eagles season, or undefeated season, by getting a block kick, scoring a touchdown on that one, and a huge home win against the Rams in this one. This is played in Tampa. I was leaning in this 50-50 ball game to Tampa, but with Mike Evans not coming back, of course, dealing with a hamstring injury, I am going to take the Eagles. I think the Eagles will play very physical against the Bucs. Eagles win it by 4. Then, it is the 1-2 Carolina Panthers take on the New England Patriots at 1 p.m. Eastern on Fox. New England is a 5.5-point favorites. New England, tough loss at home against the Steelers, and they turned the ball over way too many times, 5 of them. They welcome the 1-2 Panthers, and they're coming off with a cruising win against the Falcons. Well, and yes, the Falcons fans should be, But the Panthers, on the other hand, this was a statement win. However, for me, it felt like I didn't expect that to happen, but a win is a win. It don't matter. This will be their biggest test, and being played in Foxborough, I was going to pick the Patriots, and the reason is they could probably get a bounce-back game against the Steelers, of course. Drake May should be very good against that Panthers secondary, and their defense for the Patriots is way better than the Panthers defense in that game. But I'm going to take the underdogs. Give me the Panthers by 1 point. New Orleans Saints taking on the Buffalo Bills at 1 p.m. Eastern on CBS. Buffalo is a 15.5-point favorites. This is the highest spread of the week. Buffalo undefeated course this season, coming off a big Thursday night win against their rivals Dolphins. They welcome the Saints, who how do I describe the Saints? Lack of quarterback play, and their defense didn't show up. Their first 2 games competitive, and then last week, decimal by the Seahawks, 0-3. This game is going to be very close to call, but give me the Buffalo Bills by 24. Bills win. Cleveland Browns take on the Detroit Lions at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern on Fox. Detroit is a 9.5-point favorites. Cleveland are coming off a huge home win against the Packers on a game-winning field goal. But I think the special teams for blocking the game's winning field goal from the Packers. So, big one. They head to the Motor City, take on the Lions, who are coming off a monstrous win against the Ravens. And I did not thought about the Lions beating the Ravens, although I had the Ravens beating them, but Lions won. This should be a fun one. I do think this Lions defense, after that big win against the Ravens, could do it against the Browns offense, which probably they'll change quarterback by next week and go Dylan Gabriel is going to be their starter. So give me the Lions by 6 in this one. Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the San Francisco 49ers at 4:05 p.m. Eastern on Fox. San Francisco is a 3.5-point favorites. Niners get of course, undefeated course, but they will be without Nick Bosa, who is out of the season with its ACL injury. So welcome to the injury club. They're going to take on the Jaguars, who have a monstrous also big win on home against the Texans in a division rivalry game. But traveling to the West Coast, not easy. Give me the 49ers by 3. Indianapolis Colts taking on the Los Angeles Rams at 4:05 p.m. Eastern on Fox. Los Angeles Rams are a 3.5-point favorites. And yes, the Rams are 3.5 favorites just because they're playing the undefeated Colts. Yeah, the Colts are undefeated. And they're coming into the West Coast to take on the Rams. Wow. Good game. I'm going to take the Rams. I'm sorry, Indy fans. If I doubt you guys, I'm sorry. But they're playing a real good Rams defense, by the way, which they allowed only 14 rushing yards to Saquon Barkley. Sorry, Rams win it by 7. The Baltimore Ravens take on the Kansas City Chiefs at 4:25 p.m. Eastern on CBS. Baltimore is a 2.5-point favorites. This is a huge game for both AFC opponents, of course, who will challenge the Buffalo Bills and the Chargers in that AFC conference. Ravens coming off a heartbreaking loss to the Lions. They travel to Kansas City, on the other hand, take on the Chiefs, who are feeling swag after their win against the New York Giants. Although they had to dominate them by their defense. So thank you, Steve Spagnuolo. Fun game. Last year, they met each other, of course, in Kansas City. The Ravens almost had them, but only thanks to an Isaiah Likely out-of-bounds toe was out of bounds. You know that. This game is a must-win game for both teams, but I think Kansas City gets back on track. They win this by 5 points. Chicago Bears take on the Las Vegas Raiders at 4:25 p.m. Eastern on CBS. Chicago is a 1.5-point favorites. Chicago getting the first win in the Ben Johnson era. Cruise over the Cowboys. Take on the Raiders, who are also coming off a tough loss, although their loss is way, way brutal. This game back home in Las Vegas against the Bears, I'm going to take the Raiders. I think the Raiders will establish the run game with Ashton Jeanty, and Geno Smith should get back on track. Give me the Raiders by 2 points. Time for my game of the week. An old-school rivalry between these two teams. It is the Green Bay Packers and the Dallas Cowboys at 8:20 p.m. Eastern on NBC. Green Bay is a 6.5-point favorites. It is the Micah Parsons revenge game where he was with Dallas and then got traded to Green Bay. And by the time he made his Packers debut, the Cowboys fans just went outside of their house and started burning their Cowboy flags and starting to say, Jerry Jones, just sell the team. That's where the Cowboys are. So, how did that go? Well, for the Packers, they're coming off a loss to Cleveland, which I did not expect that to happen, by the way. But they looked very confident this week against a Cowboys team that are also coming off a brutal loss to the Chicago Bears. Of course, allowing Caleb Williams 4 passing touchdowns. You cannot give up a guy who did not have success last year, and he has scored 4 passing touchdowns. Tough one for Matt Eberflus in this one. Here in Dallas, Jerry Jones, Micah Parsons are going to meet each other. And I feel like Cowboys fans are just going to go sell the team, Jerry Jones. But this game is huge for Dallas because they cannot afford to lose this and go 1-3. However, I got the Packers. Go, Pack, go. Packers win it by 8. New York Jets, taking on the Miami Dolphins at 7:15 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Miami is a 2.5-point favorites. This is one of the doubleheaders on Monday night, which we'll get to the other one. The Jets and Dolphins, both losses. Yeah. Dolphins will make their NFL Rivalries jerseys debut also on Monday night, so cannot wait to see that. But being played in Miami is a must-win game for both teams, but the way with the Jets, it makes me want to pick the Jets. Yep. New York Jets win by 4 points. Cincinnati Bengals take on the Denver Broncos at 8:15 p.m. Eastern on ABC. Denver is a 7.5-point favorites. Bengals lost badly to the Vikings, although they only allowed 48 points, which is without Joe Burrow. While for the Broncos should put the panic button right now. Panic button. However, I don't think it's happening. Denver needs this. It's being played in Colorado. Give me the Broncos by 4 points. And that's it for my NFL Week 4 predictions. Hello there. If you have not seen my other videos, go check them out on my channel. Of course, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell for more sports news. Also, if you're watching this on TikTok and you want to see more of it, come down to my account and make sure, if you want to, hit the like button, comment down below of your predictions, and follow me on TikTok.